They are the surprising duo that made it through to the round of 16, but come Saturday, who will get the quarter-final spot? We preview China versus Cameroon's clash in the Women's Football World Cup in Canada. Hello and a very warm welcome to Match Point, the show here on CCTV Africa that previews all things African sport from the continent and beyond. I'm Mahe Mutwa. Also coming up in this half hour, Kenya beat Algeria in 3 straight sets to book a Volleyball World Cup ticket. And French Federation to boost Africa's basketball development program. Well, let's begin at the Women's World Cup. For the Chinese women's football team, Saturday in Canada brings with it a shot at reaching their 5th quarterfinal at the Women's World Cup. After escaping a difficult group stage, China has returned to the place where it all began in Edmonton, Alberta, where they await a showdown with upstarts Cameroon. CCTV's Jonas Gilbert sets it all up for us.
After accomplishing their first mission at the Women's World Cup in Canada, that being to reach the knockout round, Team China is set to take on the lone African side left Cameroon for a place in the round of 8 on Saturday. China qualified second out of a very tough Group A with a win over the Netherlands, a loss to Canada in the tournament kickoff match, and then that emotional draw against New Zealand in their group finale on their resume so far. These Steel Roses may have surprised a few pundits with their progression, but the hallmarks we expected to see from this group, strong defense, good goaltending, and quick counter capabilities have all proven to shine through. Forward Wang Lisa leads China in scoring with 2 goals through the group stage. She's also been relied on heavily for her skills on both corner and free kicks. Expect more of that on Saturday. But with a very talented and athletic group in Cameroon awaiting them, China cannot take their World Cup debutante opponent lightly. And this is even more important given that the side will be without head coach Hao Wei, sidelined for the round of 16 match after he was kicked out of China's final group stage encounter against New Zealand.
After the 3 matches, my deepest impression is that our team is growing so fast. Although I will not be present at the next match, they are maturing, they are becoming more sophisticated. I think they will do well on their own. I've seen stronger communication and coordination among the whole team, and we have a coaching staff and other assistant coaches as well.
Cameroon has turned plenty of heads here in Canada after qualifying second out of their group with wins over Ecuador and Switzerland. A close 2-1 loss to Japan, the reigning World Cup champs, was their only blemish. The indomitable Lionesses have a fearsome attack led by striker Gail Eganamoit. She has 3 goals so far in this competition. They also have a wonderful playmaker in the form of Gabriel Ngene, and she can also find the back of the net. She scored twice at these finals. And Cameroon certainly has no plan to take a backseat to the favored Chinese as they look to continue their Cinderella run at their first World Cup.
The game against Japan had a positive influence to the Cameroonian squad. And after that game, we started believing our dream. If we could play like that against Japan, the current champion, why not the others? So that is a lesson, and we are dreaming of going to the next round.
If the Chinese gals are able to get their job done and advance to the round of 8, it could potentially set up a mouth-watering draw with the USA in the quarterfinals if the USA beats Colombia in their round of 16 side. But first thing first for Hao Wei's gals is the African side, and although Cameroon have shown plenty on the attack, they have also shown a bit of a tendency to get a bit disjointed at times on the back end. So China's counter-attacking ability could be the difference and was expected to once again be a very close match. Reporting from the Women's World Cup in Canada, Jonas Gilbert, CCTV.
All right, for more on how African teams are doing at the Women's World Cup, we're joined now live by Toyin Ibitoye, who is a sports analyst, joining us live from Lagos. Toyin, let's begin with China versus Cameroon, which gets underway in a few hours' time. Who is your money on and why?
Well, obviously, my money will be on the African team. Of course, for sentimental reasons. This is the first time Cameroon will be getting to this stage of the competition, and I like them to do well. if only to serve as some lesson for African countries that the gap between African countries, European nations, Asian countries in the women's game has reduced, and also to boost the other teams in the future that they can go out there, compete with the best, and win these games.
Now, Toyin, obviously Cameroon is through to the knockout stage, but talking about the team from Nigeria, the Super Falcons, they are the undisputed winner of the African Women Championship, but come to the World Cup and they crashed out at the group stage. So what exactly went wrong?
A number of factors are responsible for why Nigeria are no longer in the competition at this stage. But then the first one that jumps at me is what I try to call the luck of the draw. Nigeria found herself in a very, very difficult draw. And I doubt if any African country would have survived that group. I mean, America, the USA, Australia, and Sweden. It doesn't come any bigger in terms of the women's game than these three countries. And I think the Falcons did well in some ways by leaving that group with their heads held high. They were not disgraced in any of the games, and they gave as much as they got in all the three games. So for me, I think it was more of the luck of the draw, because the way Nigeria prepared for this World Cup is almost the same way Cameroon prepared for this World Cup. Now Cameroon are in the knockout stage, Nigeria are out. So, well, for me, I just want to bring it down to the luck of the draw. Nigeria was in a very difficult group, and it was going to take some miracle to come out of that group.
Well, Toyin, finally, there are some similarities between the Super Falcons and the Super Eagles when it comes to the international stage. They do seem to dominate here in Africa, but when it comes to the international tournaments, their performance is wanting.
Well, I think the lesson is for us to begin to look beyond just dominating on the continent, or being continental champions, or being regional champions, to really competing with the best in the world. I think that's the challenge that we will have to draw from all of these. For the Super Eagles of Nigeria, the last World Cup in Brazil was the first time in about 16 years that we're going to be qualifying from our group in a World Cup game. The last time was in France, 1998. So it's such a long time. And I think the lesson for us is to begin to put our house in order, begin to have a global picture of what we want to achieve, and begin to look beyond just being champions of the region, of the continent, and try to compete with the best nations in the world, and see if that will take us a lot further than we've been getting in the last couple of years.
All right, Toyin, thank you very much for speaking to us here on Match Point. That was Toyin Ibitoye. He is a sports analyst joining us live from Lagos. Moving on, the Ethiopian national team will host neighboring Kenya for their African Nations Championships qualifier in the northern town of Bahir Dar. Ethiopia will be counting on their many enthusiastic fans who will cheer their team all the way and hopefully take them to victory. Sunday's game will be the first CHAN qualifying match for both Ethiopia and Kenya. Here is CCTV's Girum Chala with more.
After defeating Lesotho 2-1 last week in the new Bahada Stadium in front of its huge number of fans on the AFCON qualifier, the Ethiopian national team is morally boosted to engage neighboring Kenya to qualify for CHAN games. Both the teams are now in Bahada City waiting for the Sunday's game. This CHAN qualifier match is the first game for Ethiopia, and it's anticipated that it will take home advantage from it. After firing the Portuguese Mariano Barreto for continuous loss of results for almost 2 years, and now hiring the local coach Johannes Sahle, Ethiopia has got its first positive results last week against Lesotho. Now, this CHAN match against Kenya, though players in domestic leagues are going to be the only ones playing, Ethiopian fans hope to see yet another victory in the home turf. The new Bahada Stadium, some 800 kilometers away from the capital Addis Ababa, is hoped to bring together yet another big number of football-crazy fans for this match as well. Ethiopia is home to hundreds of thousands of football enthusiasts, football-crazy fans from Ethiopia are globally known for their uninterrupted support for their team, all their large attendance in big tournaments, including in Africa Cup of Nations or World Cup qualifiers. There's more. Ethiopian football fans are known to persevere even when their team, the Wale Antelopes, were fruitless for quite too long. It was only 2 years ago that the passionate and faithful fans of Ethiopia got their reward as Ethiopia qualified for Africa Cup of Nations after missing out for almost 33 years. Now, after signing a new coach, Ethiopia is ready to qualify for the upcoming AFCON, CHAN and World Cup tournaments. Kurumtala CCTV, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
You're watching Match Point. It's time for us to take a short break. Still to come, we'll be telling you why the prolific Flip van der Merwe has made himself unavailable for selection for the Springboks assignments. Welcome back. Let's turn to rugby now. South Africa will aim to become the first nation in rugby history to win the World Cup 3 times later this year when the tournament in England kicks off in September. The Springboks are expected to challenge for the title, but will have to do without one of their most talented players because he has made himself unavailable for selection due to internal politics with the administrators, as CS du Plessis now reports.
Flip van der Merwe is amongst 7 Bulls stalwarts not to take up new contracts with the Pretoria franchise, and the 1.98-metre tall forward has instead opted to join the mass exodus abroad after this year's Currie Cup. The 30-year-old says he has fond memories of the Union, but is looking forward to his new adventure with Clermont.
Yeah, it's quite a, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a sad, but it's with no regrets. You know, I've had a wonderful time at the Bulls. Yes, definitely a little French adventure is on the cards. I'm looking forward to it. You know, it's a whole new way of playing. There's so many South Africans going. It's going to be like playing Super Rugby again.
The Springbok lock earlier in the year made himself unavailable for selection for the national team due to personal reasons. But as the 35-test veteran explains, there were administration issues that led to his decision.
One of the decisions you have to make in life. You know, there was some contractual disputes, and you know, there was some words said. You know, and then sometimes you have to just understand that you're not maybe good enough anymore to play there, and there's some younger guys that will be able to play there. It's my proudest moment in my life whenever you put a Springbok jersey over your head. So I don't want to go into a Springbok match, you know, not feeling 100% and feeling, you know, I need more than this, you know. So then I'd rather stand back and let the next guy do it.
Van der Merwe maintains that despite his dispute with the South African Rugby Union, he is still behind the men in green and gold and believes they will challenge for the Webb Ellis Trophy later this year.
I'll definitely put my money on the Springboks. The way they've worked is the 4 years coming up to the World Cup. There's definitely a sign of a side improving. They might get some stiff competition. There's a couple of teams sticking up their hands.
The former Grey College scholar has experienced Super Rugby glory with the former champions and feels that the Stormers have a good chance to see off the Brumbies this weekend in their playoff clash at Newlands.
Yeah, the Stormers, they were lucky enough to, a couple of weeks ago, play the Brumbies also on Newlands, and I think that will still hurt the Brumbies. Although the Brumbies being a very well-coached side, I don't think they will have enough for the Stormers on the day. Stormers have got a little bit bad voodoo in semis. So we hope they can shake it off and make South Africa proud.
After 35 test matches, Flip van der Merwe has turned down the opportunity to represent the Springboks at the Rugby World Cup later this year. But he says farewell to Loftus Versfeld with fond memories after representing the 3-time Super Rugby champions for a large part of his career. Flip does maintain, though, that he is still 100% behind South Africa and he's backing them to go all the way at the Rugby World Cup. CS du Plessis, CCTV, Pretoria.
Now to some rugby action from today. Uganda has claimed the Elgon Cup after a 30-25 win over rivals Kenya. An inspiring second-half performance saw Uganda win only their first crown since 2012. Leon Senyange reports.
This was certainly an absorbing final serve for the early downpour. Both sides were not in any dampened mood. The host Uganda came into the final leg with a 3 points deficit, and a victory of 4 points or more would guarantee them this year's title. A win for Kenya, on the other hand, would hand them their third successive title. It is the hosts, though, that got off to a perfect start from the boot of Chris Lubanga, kicking Uganda into the lead within a minute of play. The defending champions, however, pinned Uganda towards the end of the half, and successive tries from Felix Wanjala and Crispine Kuto handed Kenya a 12 points lead at the break. But Kenya had no answers to Uganda's second half charge. Joseph Aredo had earlier crossed the white line before Scott Olwach touched down to level at 18-all. Uganda would take the lead again through Chris Lubanga, who was perfect with the boot, sending this through the post for 23-18 Uganda. Lawrence Sebuliba then added a try to Uganda's tally to further run away with the lead. A late Kenya try did not affect the result, as the hosts ran out victors 47-43, and with it, this year's title.
The win is good, but to come away with the trophy is the best feeling. We go forward from here in 2 car. We want to win the 3 games and get promoted to Tier 1A. This is a good stepping stone against our fiercest rivals, Kenya. It's good. It's a very good feeling.
We were disappointed. Trailing, it was 30 to 18. We scored in the second half, then with the aggregate, we were on a difference of 2-0. Unfortunately, the Ugandans really kept on working hard, and they really won the game. And congratulations to Uganda for winning the cup.
It's celebrations already for Uganda, who now claim their first title in 3 years. Now the men's side will hope to carry the same momentum into next month's Confederation of African Rugby Championships. Leon Senyange, CCTV, Kampala.
Well, staying in East Africa, Kenya's women's volleyball team are the winners of the Africa Volleyball Championships. After defeating Algeria in 3 straight sets, the hosts of the championship went into the tie seeking to claim their ticket to the World Cup to be held in Japan. Playing in front of a capacity crowd here in Nairobi, the home side took charge of the encounter early on, rallying to win the first set 25-17. The Malkia strikers came into the second with even more purpose to clinch it 25-21. Their opponents then fought back in the third set and looked to force another going ahead early on. But Kenya staged a comeback to win the third set 25-20 and confirm one of the possible 2 slots to the FIVB World Cup in Japan, which runs from the 22nd of August to the 6th of September. Well, now following the final of the Africa Nations Volleyball Championships, Matchpoint spoke with African Volleyball Confederation President Amr Elwani about the state of the sport on the continent, and we started by asking him how the Continental Championships could be commercialized.
I was discussing why you don't have a ticket sales for this crowd. You will have a huge amount of money. You can repay it back to the game, to the sport, or minimum to the community of a sport. So you have a lot of potential. So for me, volleyball competition, Nation Cup in Kenya is always successful. This one is more successful because, if you can see, it's not only the leaders, but we as a leaders want always to develop leaders and somebody to follow. 12 teams will be going to the World Cup, 1 organizer, and then 2 from each confederation. It will be 10, and then 1 was wild card. Now it used to be 2, meaning that the standard of teams in Africa will be less, so the sponsors and the TV will be annoyed to have 2 teams weak and so on. But we said, now listen, we have 25% votes on the Congress. We will vote this in the Congress if we don't. And there is a lot of demands, but we are demanding slowly but sure, and I think we are winning. But winning because we are achieving. We are raising the standard, and I believe it is good opportunity. You know that the World Cup in the same time like all African Games. And this is not our fault, because we are in the international volleyball, we plan 4 years ahead or even 10 years ahead. The All African Games changed the date, so it's not our problem, and all the national federations are suffering, especially the top. So we recommend that the top have to go to Japan, because you depend, the more points you get in ranking, and sometimes this ranking, international ranking, world ranking, very important. When you draw the lots or when you apply for wild card and so on, it's very important. So they have to get another team going for All African Game.
Well, let's take another short break. There's plenty more still to come, including French Federation to boost African basketball development program.
Usain Bolt's in town. We've got a rugby version. I'm not sure what sort of a dance that is.
Kiranesh Dibaba of Ethiopia wins 10,000 meters gold.
Well done, you're an absolute legend.
Welcome back. Now, the French Federation of Basketball has agreed to roll out basketball programs to 10 African French-speaking countries to foster higher standards and greater continental integration. The program will not only identify talent and provide training, but is also expected to build participating countries' capacity to participate in competitive world basketball. Already 10 Francophone countries have signed up to the project. The Federation intends to work initially for 2 years on the initiative before developing a roadmap in which human resources would be availed. The idea is that over time, local leagues will have the capacity to absorb players and pay them on a professional basis.
Our goal is to take advantage of this opportunity to help some countries that are known for sports, particularly basketball. I had the opportunity to go to Madagascar for the FIBA Africa Congress, where I represented French basketball and proposed participation to a large number of countries. French basketball has no basic funds to distribute, but on the contrary, we have the capacity to help the continent.
What the Federation wants is to put up infrastructure and projects in African countries that will allow the youth to remain in their countries.
South Africa's women's hockey team are currently looking to book their ticket to next year's Olympic Games. They are taking part in the World Hockey League in Valencia, knowing that a place in the top 6 would all but see them secure a place at Rio 2016. But as our correspondent Dan Williams found out, the team still faces a number of challenges.
Looking to take hockey to the next level. On the surface, it would appear that the South Africa women's team is on the up. They finished 4th at the Commonwealth Games last year and arrived in Valencia looking to secure a place at the Rio Olympic Games. But the reality is a little different, and the loss of a major sponsorship deal is just the latest setback for the team.
It is a bit tough because all the lower ranked teams are catching up to us right now because they are professional, or they do have a bit more money coming in, so they are able to train 2-3 times a week like you would want with a team.
Well, South Africa are without doubt the top side on the continent, having won the African title for the last 20 years. But if they're to truly compete at the very top level on a consistent basis, then further funding is required.
The major problem is that we don't often get enough training together, whereas other teams are busy training, you know, day in, day out on a weekly basis. So at the end of the day, the details that teams are busy with here at the event is just on all the things that they've already worked on and done, and we unfortunately come to this event to achieve, but also are learning and growing in the event where others have already grown and just performing.
For some of the players, the trip to Valencia comes at a cost. Not only do the players need to take time away from work or studies to compete at events like this, but some also need to pay in order to play.
Some of the ladies are having to contribute financially to be able to just be here and to be able to, you know, just compete. And that's often, you know, not something that you want them to do. But at the end of the day, the commitment is there, and you know that the commitment is there. But you know, it makes it difficult in terms of mentally also, because you're always worrying about the financial part that you have to bring in and that type of stuff, and not just on performance.
Organisers hope new sponsors will be persuaded to link up with the team in the future. That would raise the prospect of a new professional league, centralised contracts, and regular elite-level training and conditioning camps.
At the moment we're ranked 11th, and I'm sure if we get the backing of a few more sponsors and we turn this hockey in South Africa professional, we'll be in the top 5, top 8 definitely.
In the meantime, the focus is on improving the level of performance with what the team has. The women know if they can do that, the funding and the sponsors are more likely to materialise. Dan Williams, CCTV, Valencia.
Well, that's where we leave things for this week's edition of Matchpoint. Remember, you can send your feedback to matchpoint@cctv.com. You can also visit our Facebook page, CCTV Africa, or stay in touch on Twitter. The handle, as always, is @CCTV News Africa. Thanks for watching. I'm Maher Mutua. We leave you with this week's Move of the Week, coming from the just concluded Men's Under-20 World Cup final, where Brazil lost to Serbia 2-1, but produced a moment of individual magic with their goal.